We usually imagine the top tier of the Nazi regime through the lens of Heinrich Himmler, gaunt, severe, and driven by a chillingly precise fanaticism. Hermann Göring occupied the other extreme. He was a morphine-addicted showman who spent his afternoons managing a massive model railway and hosting costume hunting parties in the woods. Contemporary observers saw him as the regime's most approachable figure. He possessed a theatrical charm that made him the only Nazi leader foreign ambassadors actually wanted to sit next to at dinner. This same man, between hunting trips and art auctions, signed the one-paragraph memo that set the Holocaust in motion. He handled the order with the same casual detachment he applied to his morning correspondence. This raises a difficult question. How did a man more interested in status and luxury than racial theory end up orchestrating more state terror than almost anyone else in the regime? Before the stolen masterpieces, Göring was a genuine celebrity, a highly decorated fighter pilot who had commanded the legendary aerial wing once led by the Red Baron. He provided the early Nazi movement with a veneer of respectability. While Hitler and Himmler were seen as fringe agitators, Göring opened doors to the high society salons and military clubs that gave the party a seat at the table. During the failed beer hall putsch in 1923, Göring took a bullet in the groin while marching alongside Hitler. The resulting wound led to a years-long morphine addiction that eventually saw him confined to a Swedish asylum. His eventual return to the party was driven by a desperate, opportunistic hunger to reclaim his lost prestige. He traded his military reputation for the chance to inhabit the corridors of power once again. During the Night of Broken Glass in 1938, state-sponsored mobs burned synagogues and smashed thousands of Jewish-owned businesses across the country. Göring responded not with ideological fury, but with professional irritation. He was offended by the economic waste of the destruction, pointing out that German insurance companies would be liable for the property damage. He levied a 1 billion mark fine on the Jewish community to pay for their own persecution. He then issued decrees forcing them to liquidate their assets for pennies, ensuring the wealth flowed directly into the war economy he controlled. This detached logic defined his entire career. He personally built the Gestapo and the infrastructure of the surveillance state, only to hand the organization over to Heinrich Himmler when shinier prizes caught his attention. Göring demonstrates a specific kind of danger. While others required a fanatical belief system to commit atrocities, he simply required a profit margin. He was evil with a spreadsheet. 60 kilometers north of Berlin, Göring built Hall, a massive private estate where he could play the role of a medieval prince. He filled the grounds with exotic animals and spent his days in elaborate velvet tunics and feathered hats. The thousands of masterpieces hanging in his gallery were the proceeds of industrial-scale theft. His agents ruthlessly scoured occupied Europe, seizing works from museums and Jewish families to expand his private collection. On July 31, 1941, Göring signed the memo authorizing the preparations for the final solution. He handled the document as mundane administrative business. There was no hesitation. He simply moved through the paperwork so he could return to the management of his stolen art. The lavish lifestyle and the theatrical costumes were the direct material reward for the crimes he orchestrated from his desk in Berlin. His eventual downfall came from incompetence rather than conscience. After promising that his Luftwaffe could break British morale and supply the encircled army at Stalingrad, his reputation for results collapsed under the weight of his failed air war. As the war reached its end, Göring retreated into the comforts of Hall, clinging to empty titles and his art collection, while the regime he helped build crumbled. At the Nuremberg trials, he reclaimed the spotlight. Free of morphine, he dominated the other defendants and treated the courtroom as his final stage, framing his participation in mass murder as a mere series of misjudgments. He executed his final performance on the night of October 15, 1946. Just hours before his scheduled hanging, he bit down on a smuggled cyanide capsule, denying the Allies a public execution. Hermann Göring shatters our comforting illusions about how these regimes function. They do not run on fanatics alone. They run on careerists and opportunists who sign the paperwork, collect the spoils, and never stop to ask if it is wrong. He proved you do not need to believe in evil to commit it, you just need to benefit from it.